What's up guys, it's April back with another video. We're doing a reading recap. In today's video, I'm discussing all of the books that I read in 2025. I do want to start off by saying that I really didn't read that many books, okay? So don't have super high expectations for me. I am trying to read a lot more. This is the most books I've ever read in a year, full books. In the year 2025, I started 9 books and I only finished 7. Ended up DNFing 1 book, and then 1 book I read up until into the start of 2026. So I technically didn't finish it in 2025, but I started it in 2025, if that makes sense. So I have created a reading cap on my iPad. I don't know if you guys will be able to see this, but I'll insert a picture up here just so that you can all see what I'm talking about. But my reading stats are: I read 0 to 20 pages, a total of 10 days, 21 to 40 pages, a total of 19 days, 41 to 60 pages, a total of 10 days. I read a total of 61 to 80 pages in 5 days, 81 to 100 pages in a total of 5 days, and I read 100 plus pages in a day, a total of 6 days, if that makes sense. So these are just the amount of pages that I read in a day and for how many days I read them throughout the year. I read a total of 58 days out of the 365 in the year. I did also rank my books. So 3 books were 4 stars, 2 books were 5 stars, 2 books were 4.5 stars, and then obviously 1 book was DNF. Out of all of the books that I read, all the fiction. The 1 book that I DNF'd was non-fiction. One of the books that I finished was a children's novel that I had to read for a uni assignment. I also read a range of like picture books whilst going on placement in schools and early childhood settings. And then out of the 7 books that I had read this year and finished, I read the majority of them physical books, and then 1 of them was read on my Kindle, which my boyfriend Alex got for me for Christmas, which I'm so thankful and grateful for, and I love my Kindle so much. And then, like I said, I started a book at the end of 2025 and I finished it in 2026, and that was The Hunger Games. So I'm going to get into every book that I read, and we'll talk about them. Okay, the first book that I read in the year 2025 was The Glass Girl by Kathleen Glasgow. I started this book on the 26th of January and I finished it on the 7th of February. So it took me, I want to say, like just over a week to read this book. I was kind of obsessed with it. I did rate this book 4 stars. I thought that it was quite amazing. I think Kathleen Glasgow's writing is amazing. I've read Girl in Pieces by her as well, and that was also a really great book. A little bit about what I wrote here. I just said that, you know, Kathleen Glasgow seems to talk about and discuss a lot of dark, scary ideas that many teens have to go through, and I feel like her books create a safe space for all of these ideas, just because, you know, teenagers might not think that other people go through them, and having a book that you can read about it definitely helps with that, I think. I think the storyline was really good. From what I remember, like, mind you, I'm making this video at the start of February 2026, so it's a bit late, I'm so sorry. But from what I can remember, this story was intense, but it was like a good intense, right? It wasn't like the intense of, oh my gosh, I'm gonna throw up. It was the intense of, oh my gosh, I have to keep reading to find out what happens. So yeah, I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I did cry. I did indeed cry. So, little warning there, it is quite sad in some parts, yeah, there's really not much I can say. It was honestly a really great book. I probably should have rated it higher, but I did rate it 4 stars. Okay, the next book that I read in the year 2025 was Happy Place by Emily Henry. I started this book on the 9th of February and I ended up finishing it, so embarrassing, on the 8th of June. So I did take quite a bit of a break from this book. I kind of lost a bit of motivation, but then I really loved it in the end. Rated this book 4 stars as well. Honestly, this story, I felt like some of you are gonna really hate me for this. I felt like I was really bored in the beginning. Like I didn't really know what to expect, and then I sort of lost motivation. I didn't pick it up for like a couple months, like 4 months. And then I was like, you know what? I should just finish it so that I can like feel accomplished with myself and happy. Yeah, so I ended up finishing it like a couple of months later. Honestly, the storyline was really good. I really liked the writing. Honestly, I don't know if I would reread it because I don't know. I think maybe I'm more of a thriller girl instead of like a romance. Like, you'll see why in a minute. But yeah, I just think that the storyline was a good idea. I just didn't really like crave to read it, you know what I mean? The next book that I read was Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. This was the book that I ended up DNFing. I started the book on the 12th of June and I think I stopped reading it like the 15th of June. I really didn't give it much of a chance. I read up to page 122 and I didn't really like vibe with it. I think that's personally more like values and morals wise. There was like a lot of mention of doing like alcohol and drugs and cigarettes and staying out till 5 in the morning and sleeping with people that you don't really know and all of that sort of stuff, and I just don't really think that that's my vibe. Sue me, I'm being completely honest, that's not my vibe at all. As you guys maybe don't know, I don't think I've told you, but Alex and I have been together for nearly 5 years. Like, I am not the person that does cigarettes and drugs. I drink maybe like twice a year. I am really not into that kind of party lifestyle. So yeah, I just don't think that the book really resonated with me, and I think that that's okay. I think that, you know, as long as I tried it and I like gave it a good go, I read about half of it and then I just sort of put it down. I think that's a fair shot, you know. I think that I don't have to love everything that I read, you know. So I didn't end up rating it because I didn't finish it, but if I were to rate it, I would maybe rate it like 3.5 stars. Because I did read a good chunk of it, but I just didn't like finish it, you know what I mean? The next book that I read was Charlotte's Web by E.B. White, and I read this for an assignment for uni. So I started this book on the 29th of July and I finished it on the 31st of July. Honestly, it was a really good book. Can't fault it. I found it super easy to read, obviously, because it's a children's book, but also the writing was just so easy to follow. The storyline was so easy to follow. I hadn't read it before. I'd only watched the movie. I've only recently gotten into reading within the last few years, and I've always been a movie person, but now I think I'm a book before movie person, if that makes sense. Obviously, there are some movies that I've already watched that I can't just like read the book now and say, oh, I read it before the movie, if I've already seen the movie, which obviously sucks, but I am becoming that person of I'm going to read the book before the movie. I rated this book 5 stars. There was no notes, honestly. I thought it was amazing. I was actively like annotating and taking notes and all of that sort of stuff. I have taken Where is my book? It's somewhere. Here. This is my book. I've had it since I was about 8 years old, honestly. I even spelt my name wrong. I coloured in the front page, I spelt my name wrong, and then I corrected it on top. But yeah, I had a bunch of sticky tabs and things going on in here for my class because I had to do 3 assignments based on a children's book, and I chose this one obviously because I already had it and I didn't need to buy anything new. And honestly, I really loved it. It was my first time reading Charlotte's Web, and I honestly probably would read it again. And because I'm studying to be a teacher, I will in fact be bringing my copy into class and reading it on like lunch, and like, you know, when the kids are eating, I'll probably read them a story, you know, things like that. Probably gonna be doing that. I'm very excited to become a teacher and to express my love for reading to kids, especially as someone who, when they were a kid, used to absolutely hate reading. I'm not even talking like, oh yeah, I'll try and read and then like I'll like put it down. No. I would kick, scream, throw a tantrum, throw a whole ass fit because I didn't want to read a book. And now look at me. That whole shelf plus whatever's down here is all mine. Who have I become? I don't know. But I'm not mad about it. The next book that I read is a series. And did I complete the series all of last year? I did in fact do that. What did I read, you may ask? The Housemaid by Freida McFadden. Book 1, 2, and 3. Amazing. The book 1, I rated it 5 stars. I started it on the 1st of August and I finished it on the 4th of August. That is less than a week. Less than a week. When I tell you that I was sitting there in bed, book open like this for hours on end. Yeah, that happened. I rated that book 5 stars. I read 92 pages when I started that book. And then I read 36 pages on the second day, 27 pages on the third day, and then I finished the book by reading 171 pages. That's kind of insane. I don't think I've ever read a book so quickly in my life. I ate that shit up so fast. I would read that again. I would 100% pay to read that again, genuinely. Book 2, I started 2 months later. I started it on the 27th of October and I finished it on the 3rd of November. Again, like 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 1, 2, 3, literally a week. I rated the second book 4.5 stars. I just didn't think it was as great as the first book, if you know what I mean. But it was still a really good storyline. If you don't know, basically, The Housemaid, it follows a girl named Millie, and she has a prison history, and she needs to get a job, so she becomes a housemaid for this family. And each book follows Millie and a different family. And shit goes down in these houses. What can I say? I'm not going to spoil it for you all. Well, I'm not going to do that, but shit goes down. Anyway, basically her whole thing is that she helps women, and that's really all I'm going to say. I feel like you can get my drift. And then obviously I read book 3 in November. I started the book on the 4th of November, finished it by the 12th of November. Also rated that one 4.5 stars. Again, just wasn't as great as the first book. It also had a bit of a different storyline. It wasn't following Millie in working with a family, but it was following Millie and her family moving into a new neighborhood. And then the neighborhood is sort of a little bit dodge, a little bit sketch. Yeah, I didn't really love the second two as much as I loved the first one. I loved the first one so much. I feel like book 3 was more of like a whodunit situation. If you know what that means, I don't know. Sort of like a mystery of like, okay, but how did this happen and who did it? I just don't think it had the exact same vibe as the first two. And it definitely felt a bit slower than the first two. The first one went like this. Second one went, and then this one was sort of like quite slow in my opinion, compared to the first one especially. I haven't read like the short novella that she released. I think it's called The Housemaid's Wedding. I don't know. It's supposed to go in between book 2 and 3. Did a lot of research on it. It's only like 70 pages. It's really not needed between book 2 and 3. I mean, it's there if you want it, but I didn't read it. I didn't feel the need to. The next book, and the last book technically, that I finished in 2025 was Archer's Voice. Have I got it up here? I do, but it's right there and I can't reach it from here. I started Archer's Voice on the 13th of November and I finished it on the 30th of December. I originally started the book as the physical copy, and then I got my Kindle for Christmas. Okay, you see where this is going. And then I just flew through the pages, flew through them. I literally couldn't put that device down. I was sat there like this, hours on end. I kid you not, I was like, oh, it's only one more click. Tap, it's only one more click. Tap, next page I turn, oh, book's finished. What just happened? Yeah, that's how quickly I read that. I literally got it for Christmas and then finished it like fucking 3 days later. Sorry. Anyway, I rated Archer's Voice 4 stars. Again, I was a little bored in the beginning. I didn't really understand what was going on. If you've read this book, it has a lot of flashback moments at the start of the book. And then, so I was kind of confused on what I was supposed to be following, if that makes sense. Like, I was kind of lost. I was kind of like, who's the main character? Is it the 7-year-old who's the main character? Is it the like 25-year-old man who's the main character? Turns out they're the same person, okay? And then obviously there was like flashbacks with the female main character, and I was just really confused at the start. But then I got it and I really enjoyed it and I loved it and I ate that up so fast. The only reason why I didn't rate it 5 stars was because I was confused in the beginning. Like, at this point, I just feel like it might be user error. Oh well. But, yeah. So, Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. Chef's kiss, absolute masterpiece. It was such an interesting love story. I did say at the start of this video that I'm not really a romance person. But when it has an interesting component like this book does, I ate that up so fast. I was like, oh my gosh. Because all of a sudden, it's this boy who can't talk or communicate. And then this girl comes along and she's like, oh, we're going to be besties and I'm just going to force you into my life and we're going to be besties and then we're going to be lovers. I don't care that you didn't even want to hang out with me to begin with. I'm going to force myself into your life. And I was like, you know what, it sounds exactly like what I would do. Anyway, and then the last book that I started in 2025 was The Hunger Games. Now listen, The Hunger Games, one of my favorite movies of all time. I love every single one of those movies. Eat them up every time. I don't care that I've seen them 100 times. I will watch them and be so intrigued every single time. Okay? Let me tell you, I started that book on the 31st of December, finished it on the 14th of January. given that I was like quite busy in like the first week and I just didn't have time to pick it up, if I did have time to pick it up, that book would have been done in 4 days. I am not joking. I read that thing so fast. But we're not talking about 2026. We're going to save this for the end of the year, for next year. Okay, we're going to save my little reading recap of 2026 for the end of 2026 or start of 2027. We'll see, okay? But let's just say that I think I'm going to beat my current reading goal, okay? I don't necessarily have a reading goal, mind you. I just read when I feel like reading, and I just pick books up when I feel like picking them up. I don't have a set goal for myself. I want reading to be fun, and I don't want it to feel like homework, and I don't want it to feel like if I didn't meet the books that I wanted to read in the year that I failed. You know what I mean? I want reading to be a fun thing for me, and because it hasn't been a fun thing for me literally like my entire life, I don't want to go back to hating reading. You know what I mean? Like, I would rather not set a goal for myself and just be happy that I read books, any amount, no matter what it is, than to set a goal for myself and not complete that goal or not meet that goal and be disappointed in myself. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to be setting goals for myself. I don't think that that's something that I'll be doing. But I do think that with the streak that I'm already on right now, it's just flying by, and I reckon I will be beating 7 books. I think so. Well, at least I want to. Because I've already read, like, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I've read a decent amount. So I think I'm going to beat reading 7 books, but it's not a goal for me, if that makes sense. Just based on how many books I've already read this year, I reckon it's an easy beat, if that makes sense. As I said previously, like, don't have such high expectations for me as compared to like other like booktubers and booktalkers and like all that sort of stuff, because, you know, I'm just a girl. They're fantastic at reading like at least like 5 or 6 books a month. That is not me. What they read in a month is what I read in a year. So I mean, don't expect too much from me, but I am super excited to hopefully read more this year. And yeah, that's all I have for you. Anyway, I hope you all have an amazing day, amazing week, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye! Okay, let's see if I can roll off this thing. This honestly would have been a better view. Oh well, we know better for next time. Bye!